From the 1011 Now streaming studio in Lincoln, Nebraska, this is the REPORT Husker Show, sponsored by Fat Dog's Convenience Store.
Hi, everyone. Bill Rentschler alongside Chase Madison in the 1011 Now streaming studio. REPORT Husker Show brought to you by Fat Dog's Convenience Store after Nebraska romps over Houston Christian 59-7. 3-0 out of non-conference, Chase. And I think Dylan Raiola said it after the game. Season starts now. Big Ten play next week. Michigan, 2:30 kick.
I like the word romp there, you know. Yeah, they look good, similar to how a romper. It was as Dylan mentioned, they got through the games they were supposed to get through, and Rule, as he mentioned, he said, you won big against teams you were supposed to beat big, and you cleaned up against a good power forward, competitive power forward opponent in game one. So, a lot to build off of, but also I think because they took the starters out in the third quarter, I think a lot of those guys, including Dylan, including Dane Key, already are shifting their focus, which is good to hear. But it's good to hear because of how today's game went. If today's game was, even last year they hosted Northern Iowa in the non-conference. It was 21-3 in the third quarter.
Yeah, it did not look good.
And UNI was driving. Dylan and Emmett Johnson were in the game in the fourth quarter to make it 34-3.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a different feeling this season that these games are just, obviously the opponents are pretty inferior, and Houston Christian's no Northern Iowa in terms of an FCS opponent.
No.
That's for sure. But yeah, it's refreshing to see a game just be decided like most bye games FCS opponents should go.
Well, and it's been a while, Chase. Again, you've only been here a couple years as a Nebraska native. I have seen over the past decade these games where it should be easy, it's just never easy. But now the last 2 weeks, what's 59 plus 68 if we can do some quick math here? 100 and change to 7 over the last 2 weeks.
They had 106 points unanswered. Through it was 6 quarters, and you got even up to a little bit more before that Houston Christian score.
127.
What?
127.
Yeah, and really, I don't think if that kind of broken play with the, it was an arm tackle, I think by Jalen George. I don't want to be wrong on that, but I believe it was an arm tackle. He went high. He didn't go for the hip on the running back, pulled away, and then everyone had converged on the right side of the field, and Houston Christian's Zayshawn Edwards.
Yes, I believe that is correct.
Took off the left side. But besides that, I don't think the Huskies really were going to have a great chance of scoring.
No.
Yeah, and I think the difference with Houston Christian was Akron was still trying to be, fairly competitive. There was times where it just felt like Houston Christian was just accepting.
They ran the play clock down.
Yeah.
Under 10 most every snap, I would say.
And
they knew what this game was, and they played so they wouldn't have to endure as much of it.
Yeah, compared to an Akron team that's used to playing on Tuesday nights in the MAC that was still with their starters out there, still cutting guys and trying to, not have any low blows, but, trying to make an impact against Nebraska. This was a game. And I think also there's factors it was 90 degrees in the heat.
It was warm.
Was warm. Yeah, that's another factor as well. But Houston Christian, the Nebraska defense, besides that one play, was pretty successful.
Pretty good. You can see the game stats here on the screen again. 554 yards of total offense for Nebraska, 192 on the ground, 362 through the air. You had 4 quarterbacks play this game. Dylan Raiola only played the first half, 15 for 21, threw for 222 and 2 scores. He's off to a pretty good start 3 games in.
Yeah, 8 touchdowns. I think the thing that's most impressive is 0 turnovers by DR. Last year he forced some things early and made some pretty incredible plays. You think back to the UTEP Jamal Banks rollout. that he hit him right before the half to score. You think of some of the throws he had against Colorado that were risky. Even the Illinois, when he rolled out and he hit, I believe it was Nair, but there was like 6 guys in that left corner of the end zone. So he made some interesting and some pretty eye-popping throws early last season. But then as the season progressed, he made some of those throws to the other team. I believe double digits interceptions last year. So I think he had maybe 11. So to have a clean slate this year, and granted he did have one fumble that he recovered himself. But overall, yeah, Dylan Raiola has been really impressive. And I think Rule just continues to subtly toot his horn a little bit with like, hey, like you guys don't realize how impressive he has been. And I think a lot of people saw this coming, but there is so many scenarios where you get this 5-star blue chip recruit and it doesn't really work out.
No.
And so to see Dylan, it's almost like so far this season, and I don't want to speak too soon, but it's almost like he can do no wrong, right? And I think a lot of that's gone into his rigorous prep, having a year under his belt, and having a really solid cast of characters around him.
You can see, and again, you compared it to last year to this year, the first couple games, he's doing more quarterbacking this year, and I feel like that's what Matt Rule keeps saying. Is so impressive. A lot of stuff at the line, he's taking what's there, and he's not forcing those throws.
Yeah, and I think what's helped with Dana Holgerson's offense, and granted it has been wildly efficient. They had a 4th down turnover in the red zone late in this game. Kenneth Williams, a touchdown attempt. But besides that, I think they've scored on like 18 out. It's almost, I think, out of like 22 possessions, it's like 18 out of 22 or something. It's an impressive stat I just heard. Obviously, it didn't stick with me that well, but yeah. So I think with Holgerson's offense, like last year, there was games that like maybe Nebraska wins, but Raiola's finishing with 180 yards, a pick and a touchdown. Like I think you're seeing now that this offense, one, can just total more yards as a collective, but 2, Holgerson is really letting Raiola kind of excel, where it felt like last year he wasn't being as much of a quarterback, he was being more of a game manager, and they're down 2 scores, now he has to try and be a hero.
Yeah, and so he had an impressive day. I would argue backup TJ Lateef, also a pretty impressive day, 5 for 5, 126 yards, and 1 touchdown. Again, for the year, he's looked very good. I think you have to feel pretty comfortable with that quarterback room. If, Dylan did get hurt as you go into Big Ten play, TJ Lateef looks like a pretty good backup.
Yeah, I think he's definitely impressed. Coming into the season, too, obviously, Gramstad's kind of the Grandpa Gramstad and, NAIA guy who's a talented player, but, probably doesn't have the full skill set at the Big Ten level. But, coming into the camp, you kind of would maybe think Lateef could show some signs, but we didn't really know too much about him as a recruit. And then you get Marcos Davila from Purdue, who was, I believe a former 4-star that committed to Ryan Walters 2 years ago out of West Texas. So that was a guy that was coming over who had limited sample size in his freshman year on a, really just bad Purdue team in the Big Ten. And I kind of thought when he transferred, maybe he would be in line to be the backup or get a chance to play. But Lateef has clearly won that job. And obviously, the level of competition they're playing, you'd have to see if he was going against a Michigan front, what that would look like. And, he's had a good amount of time in the pocket when he's gone in, and he's scrambled well and be able to process things. But, give credit to him. Yeah, that room as a whole looks very good right now. But you still would hope that you don't have to go to another quarterback.
No, yeah, you hope, but if they had to. And then the guys they're throwing to, Chase, Jamal Banks and Isaiah Neor last year, I think we all thought they were pretty good. But now this year coming in with Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter, another year under Corey Barney's belt, Cortez Mills. and the running backs have been catching the ball well out of the backfield. They really spread it around. I think 11 different guys caught balls today for, again, almost 400 yards through the air.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think last year you had these like 1-year rentals, which was still an upgrade from Rule's first year when you had Billy Kemp out there, and then you had walk-on Alex Bullock and a hobbling IGC. It was a very nothing against him. He was just injured. It's night and day with what the receiver room was. And I think last year you did have some playmakers with a proven receiver like Banks and someone that could really space the field in Nair, but that was kind of it. And now you have, and you had Barney who came on the scene, but now you have these other freshmen who are pushing these other guys. And Danny Key said it, like, he has experienced the SEC. He knows the Big Ten is going to be a gauntlet, and he's played at as high of a level as pretty much anyone, And Isaiah Hunter was, I think, an underrated get out of California. They had a very fun team last year, but I think he looked not necessarily I don't think he was coming out from Cal because he had a decent year with some production at Cal, but I think he was looking for a program that could win to the next step. I don't think it was necessarily a money thing or an NIL thing. But then, and then you have these younger players that are proving, and I do agree with you. I think this running back group, while it is on the smaller size physically, they all have pretty good ball skills. Emmett Johnson can catch the ball. Isaiah Mosey, Rule actually mentioned this after the game today. They're playing him at running back some too, but they've kind of made him a little bit of a slot receiver as well, just because they think they need some more depth at that position where he can kind of do both. And he came out as a 4-star receiver.
Yeah.
He was not a running back, and they just tried to move him to running back to get the ball in his hands. He's not really a running back. And then you also have someone who has kind of came on the scene more in a guy like Quentin Ives. Now he's the bigger back.
Supposed to be the big back. Yeah.
But he still had 2 catches today and looked good in the passing game. So, overall, I think the receiver room and even the tight ends is something is very promising. And I think Kia scored a touchdown in all 3 games this year. And so, while Hunter, I think, has shown some flashes, today just 1 catch, he really wasn't involved too much in the offense. I think Key is going to be the Mr. Consistency of this Nebraska offense. And then, it's exciting to have a guy like Quinn Clark scores this week. Well, this week he doesn't have a catch, but Cortez Mills has 3 catches and then breaks a big one off for a touchdown. So, a lot to be happy with. No Carter Nelson catches.
No Carter Nelson. Haven't heard much from him. He's played a little bit, but haven't heard much from him yet this season.
But overall, it's still a group that you can be really happy with.
And so I guess, we don't want to – it's not all sunshine. There's still some issues that you need to look at moving forward towards Michigan. They won today, I think, 63-3 against Central Michigan. Obviously, they dropped that game last week against Oklahoma, but today kind of was the first time you saw their big quarterback, Bryce Underwood, run the ball. Ran for a little over 100 yards and 2 scores, throwing for 235. I mean, the win against Cincinnati was nice. The last 2 weeks, though, you beat teams that you should have beat by a lot, and you'll really know more about this team a week from now. Game will be halfway done a week from now today.
Yeah, I think it's going to really come down to, for Nebraska, the Michigan is going to be a great test, and I think things to clean up. There was a few times that Raiola scrambled as well as Latif, and Raiola early scrambled. He had 15 to 21. Passing, I want to say one was probably a bad throw, one was a drop by Luke Lindenmeyer, and then I'd say the other 4 incompletions were passes he threw away because he scrambled and no one was open. And that's something that needs to improve a little bit. And, also just containing the run game, right? There was a few times where Houston Christian, while they were not successful at all throwing the ball, there was a few times where it was 3rd and 8 and they picked it up on the ground, which is not completely ideal. They had one running back with 82 yards, one running back with 39 yards. Now, granted, that 45-yard rush inflates his numbers a little bit, but still, I think, yeah, there is stuff to improve. And the one thing that the Huskers tried to do, which they really haven't had to do this year, which is because these games haven't been close. Cincinnati was close, but they were playing on the defense. They were trying to hold off them coming back, is they haven't had a 2-minute drill or any quick offense really. And that was something that Holgerson talked about. We might try and do no huddle. Today, against Houston Christian gets backed up, and with about a minute left in the first half, they took a timeout, and they tried to intentionally set themselves up, like, can we drive down the field and at least get 3 points in a minute? And they weren't able to do that. So that's an area where it's like, it's hard to say how they will do because they haven't done it in a game. And then, yeah, just some cleaning up a little bit on the defense, but really it's going to be interesting. I think the tell of the game, too, is that I think Michigan will look to run the ball. With Underwood and Mullins, they have players that can run the ball, and then also just a line that can push. And then on Nebraska's side, I think Nebraska should look to throw the ball.
Mm-hmm. And so that will be, and also I don't know how much it plays into it. Chase, they will be without their head coach Sharon Moore, who will be
Biff
serving as
Poggi
suspension.
is going to be the interim, who is an interesting cat.
Had sleeves on today. Did not go sleeveless in the win against Central Michigan.
I really think he's more just a figurehead. I don't really know. It's kind of like when those cardboard cutouts were filling the stands during COVID. Like how much is he really doing? Now, granted, if it's a close game and someone's got to make a decision, that could bode well in Nebraska's favor. I do think Sharon Moore is a good coach. Michigan, obviously, they're interesting to look at just because of the, what came out cheating-wise, and that's why the suspension is happening, for those that don't know. There was a self-imposed suspension by Michigan and Sharon Moore, but then the NCAA
tacked on a couple more.
And, that's because of just his connection to the Connor Stallions and Jim Harbaugh. But Stallions and Harbaugh can't touch college football at all again. They got show clause suspensions.
Nope.
Anyways, yeah, going back to, we don't have to look completely at next week, but it is refreshing to hear the players already kind of pivoting. But yeah, I think this week, obviously, score is different. I don't know if they covered. Maybe they covered 42.5.
42.5. So they covered. I think after the first half, it was up to like 52.5. So I don't think they covered that.
I don't know if you're whoever's live betting Houston Christian, Nebraska, call the number. No, I'm kidding.
Right?
No. What I was going to say is that while this game is not as big of a win in terms of the point spread, I do think they looked a little bit better than Akron.
Yeah.
The really only parts that you're a little bit disappointed about is that first drive stalling out. There was kind of a hold on the out route by Dane Key. Rule was upset about that. They settled for 3, but still a successful red zone possession. And then kickoff out of bounds, something that can't happen.
It's the third time in 3 games.
And, I like John Hull. He's a nice kid, Lincoln kid, but if he can't put it in the end zone or put it where they want him to put it,
well, it's one of those things. It's not going to hurt you against Houston Christian, but against Michigan, if you give them starting at 35, that'll hurt.
Yeah. So, you had that issue. You had the, not scoring a touchdown on your first drive. You had a turnover on downs late, and you gave up a big kind of broken play.
Yeah.
So, but besides that, you didn't turn the ball over. You looked efficient on offense. When the starters were out there, the first and second quarter, they were just rolling. So, overall, I think there's a lot of great takeaways from this game, and I think it was even better that the way they played it, they still scored 59 points, but they basically put their foot off the gas at halftime.
They did.
Which was kind of a different tone, which I almost think they needed that little kick in the butt at the halftime of Akron. There was some mistakes. There was a fumble that, Akron was driving. If it wasn't for a missed field goal and a blocked field goal, Akron does score that game. So, overall, I think this was a cleaner performance from whistle to whistle.
What'd you make of the All Reds?
I like them. I don't know if this is a Raiola thing or who's the one getting stuff approved, because last year they rolled out to Indiana in icy whites and
didn't go well.
Got curb stomped. So, good game to do it. Red Moon Rising or whatever it is. It's the first time since 1986 they've worn. Now, granted, they've worn alternates twice, but these were talking about the classic red pants with the classic red uniform. I
thought they looked clean.
I thought they looked good. Yeah, I thought they looked good. It was good game to do them, and you don't make too big of a deal out of it, but it's a nice way to do, because like so many schools, like Nebraska is one of those brands where they didn't do an alternate uniform at all last year.
Mm-mm.
The only alternate was when they wore all white at Indiana. So I like this because the players probably liked it, and it's not some ridiculous alternate. It is simply just your uniform, but just mixing it up every once in a while.
Yeah, just a splash of color there. All right. So football's in the books for this weekend. 2:30 kick next weekend, Michigan. That game will be airing on CBS, so you can watch it on 10/11. Do we have a pregame show?
Yes. So we are doing a hour-long pregame show.
There we go.
Next Saturday, 1 p.m. Central to 2 p.m. Central. That won't lead you all the way up to kickoff. You'll have to kick it with CBS's own pregame show before that. But if you're at a tailgate or just interested, we'll have plenty of content talking about the game, covering some local players on Nebraska who are from Michigan, and just overall, what you can expect the matchup. Kevin Suits and myself, along with some other members of the 10-11 team. There'll probably be a forecast report in there as well, and
it does look like it will be a little bit more comfortable for you guys next weekend.
Yeah, so
it was 70s instead of 90s.
It was a hot one out there and very sunny. But yeah, so that should be exciting, and it really is going to be, I think, this season is not a lost cause at all if you lose the Michigan game.
No.
But it is kind of a really it's a good tell of what this team is. And, Michigan is a team that it's not like they have an ongoing rivalry with Nebraska, but it does feel like the past few times there's been some close games, but then also there's been times where Michigan has came to town and just put the throttle
pretty.
On.
Yep.
And that's the way it worked 2 years ago. Final thing I wanted to say, not talking about Michigan. We didn't get to see Archie Wilson for the second week in a row. Some Husker fans are upset.
Yep, they're mad at Dylan.
But I did want to shout out Houston Christian's punter, last name Young. I actually thought that their punting, they had like one or two short ones, and they punted a lot. It was effective game plan. There was one he rolled out right and put it way left, down to the 16 or 19, and Barney had no chance of returning it because the punt was going the way, not where he was lined up. Long of 59, one inside 20. He had averaged 42.3, but he had 8 punts. 338 yards. Busy day.
I would love to know the last time that a team game planned to punt away from a Nebraska returner, because I would imagine it's probably been a hot second.
Well, and Eckler's done a pretty good job. It's tough when he wants to get punt return yardage, and there's just scenarios where you can't
do it.
I will say Mosey had a really good punt return at the end of the game. So you could see what he can do with the ball in his hands.
And that was almost because the punter kicked it too far and he outkicked his coverage.
Yeah. So
I
think that was one bright spot I thought on HCU
for the Huskies. I'm sure, and again, I think you might have sent out video. They were in their pregame warm-ups checking out the stadium. So I'm sure it was a cool experience for them. The game obviously didn't go the way they wanted it, but
yeah,
cool
it was, I think, a little bit more cordial than Akron. Matt Rule likes, knows some of the staff on Houston Christian, and so there's already a relationship there. So I think nothing against Akron. There was no bad blood, but I think there was a little bit of a different tone where today was more about we've had a good first half. Let's now let the young guys see what they can do.
Yeah, 100%.
And, yeah.
All right. Well, anything else top of mind, Chase, before we let everyone go?
Supposedly, which depending on how long he's playing football, it seems hard to believe. Williams Winery, the scoop and score, was supposedly his first
touchdown ever.
Touchdown playing the American game of
I
football.
think we were all thinking of Leon Lett there, though, as he rumbled towards the end zone because he did not have his 5 points of contact.
Well, he picked it up and then started running like a T-Rex because he had the ball and he was just kind of. Now, granted, he is fast for how big he is.
He's a very athletic man.
It is very impressive, but yeah, it was. He didn't really have 5 points of contact or whatever they coach where you cross the goal line. So,
all right,
yeah.
All right, well, Chase, thanks for your time. Again, I'm not sure when we're going to go on tonight or if we're going to go on tonight for our early show.
We should have a show at 10.
Show at 10.
Before that, I don't know.
Purdue and USC in a lightning delay. I don't know if we've even started yet. Doesn't look like it as I just switch over here. So make sure you tune in then again for tonight at 10 for all the highlights and all the stats breakdown and everything like that. So, Chase, appreciate your time. As always, appreciate everyone for tuning in and watching. Hope everyone has a nice Saturday.
You've been listening to the REPORT Husker Show, sponsored by Fat Dog's Convenience Store. Watch, listen, and stream on the 1011 Now app, on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more Husker coverage throughout the week, watch the Report on 1011 Sports at 6 and 10 p.m. and download the 1011 Now app.